Beat Sampras, the top player in the world, leading 1-0 over Yevgeny Kafelnikov. We talked yesterday to Sampras about the whirlwind week he had after regaining #1 in the world.
Yeah, I feel good. I mean, I had a good week in Paris and beat some good players and had a couple days off, went home, kind of got the battery recharged up, got here in plenty of time to practice. So I feel like I'm playing well and fit and ready to go.
So it was a tough week for Sampras. Back to the USA, shooting a Nike commercial out in Los Angeles for a couple of days, and those things are not that easy to shoot 102 takes, I guess.
Yeah, they're long days, and then jump on a plane and come back over here and play a lot of tough matches. When you play a tournament, you have a chance to work yourself into it somewhat. They're very difficult first-round matches these days, but this event, the ATP Tour Finals, you have a tough one first off, and this is the opening match of the week. Just shows you how good this young man is, Kafelnikov. Look how early he takes this one, strikes it right down the middle. Sampras a good 3 or 4 yards away from that one.
Game point, Kafelnikov.
Another blistering forehand from Kafelnikov. That's where he makes a lot of the errors, though. It's a very flicky shot, very wristy shot on the forehand.
Kafelnikov holds on, and it's 1-all. Tonight at 7:30 Eastern Time from Pittsburgh Civic Arena in its NHL hockey, the Penguins, led by the league's top scorer, Mario Lemieux, take on the Dallas Stars. Promises to be an offensive shootout. Dallas and Pittsburgh tonight on ESPN. 1 game more.
Not a bad start in this game for Sampras. 2 aces in a row, total of 3 so far. Three in a row. That one 193 kilometers an hour. That's getting up to around 120 miles an hour. Look at the super slow-mo there, right in the corner, perfect position. Even if you're looking for that one, it's tough to put a racket on it.
Miss hit of the backhand side, still game point for Sampras. Early stages of the first set here, first round robin match. Again, they're in the same section with Becker and Ferreira. The other section is Michael Chang, Thomas Muster, Jim Courier, and Enquist of Sweden.
Oh.
Made it look easy. Sampras, in that game anyway, he was down to break point in the first serve game of the match. It's 2-1. 2-1, Sampras leading, Kafelnikov serving.
Well, Kafelnikov at the end of this year will probably become the first Russian to finish in the top 10. And he's looking to try and be the first player for many years to finish in the top 10 in both singles and in doubles.
Since Emilio Sanchez did it. Becker and Wayne Ferreira. Ferreira got into this championship when Agassi pulled out. They'll play next. And then tonight, Thomas Muster and Michael Chang in a repeat of the French Open final.
That's the side that causes some problems, and you can look for Sampras during the rallies if he gets an opportunity to work the forehand side over. The two-fisted backhand of Kafelnikov is a little more consistent. Well,
no
both players
slouch on the
serving
serve
well.
area either, Fred, is he?
There's the motion way into the court. There's 13 cameras in operation here for the ATP World Finals. And there's another ace out wide. So both players serving particularly well early in the match.
Sampras has got 5 and Kafelnikov has 3.
13 cameras, Cliff, that's a tremendous coverage. They got, as John Madden would say, they got stuff all over the place. They got more stuff than they got stuff here.
2 games all.
Pete Sampras has dominated our sport pretty much since 1992. He's been ranked number 2 or higher since then.
Last 2 years he's ended up number 1 in the world, Fred, and again this year it'll be the same story. Watch the return and then the easy put-away volley from Sampras.
Well, 3 years in a row he's won Wimbledon, first American ever to do that, and 3 years in a row at the end of the year he's finished up as number 1. Took over the number 1 spot after winning the Paris indoors over Boris Becker in straight sets, best of 5 set final.
Sampras holds on, no trouble. In fact, neither one has had any trouble since the first game. It's on serve. The international press yesterday had access to the 8 finalists here. They were dressed, as Fred Stolle says, more appropriately for enclosed. It would have looked better on he and I. Anyway, it was a field day for the press, and a lot of international press were on hand. This is the IBM ATP Tour World Championship in Frankfurt, Germany.
Yes, the guest relations director at the Arabella Hotel, where all the players are staying here during the World Championship. Well, she sort of was at that press conference yesterday and sort of remarked those clothes would have looked better on more distinguished gentlemen like you and Cliff Drysdale rather than the young fellows.
What did you give her for that, Fred?
Yeah.
Kafelnikov to serve. $15 love. Sampras leading 3-2 first set. Sampras has made very little impression on Kafelnikov's serve so far.
Oh boy, he didn't have much room to work with Kafelnikov. He had to go for the winner way out of court. A mishit return from Sampras. Watch this one, gets it right off the top of the racket, way out of court. Kafelnikov's got to go down around the net post, but hit it too deep. Slight chance now for the number 1 seed.
Cut the line. That's wide. 30-year-old big point there. Could have given him a couple of break points. He moves well, Fred Sampras. How do you think he compares with the likes of Cheng and Agassi and the really quick movers?
I think they're a little bit quicker than Sampras is. He's deceptively fast. But the thing when Sampras gets there on the run, He goes for the big shot, goes for that winner. 30 all.
Down the line, and now he does have a break point, his first of the match.
Just like that, he moves to that one we've talked about, the running forehand. Gets out the string-a-lings to make sure the racket's okay. This one's a dipping backhand. The volley, not enough on us down the center of the court. Sampras, look at the preparation there, and he stays down with knees bent, head still. Look at this. This is a great lesson for you, folks. Does not move that head or does not lift up until he's completed the swing.
Second serve break point. And there is the first break of the match, and it goes to Sampras, 4-2 first set. You may remember what happened to Sampras last year, Fred. You were talking about how he beat Becker in the final of the Paris Indoor. That put him back on top of the tennis world at #1 on the rankings. But remember what happened to him the first day here against Becker? He lost last year here at the World Championship and then beat Becker to win it all on the Sunday.
Oh, what a stretch. A great stretch volley. Kafelnikov thought that he had the winner. It looked as though it was past Sampras. Look at this. There it was behind him. Stretches out, makes a good stab volley. A little bit lucky, but very effective. Look at that camera there, right on the center strap of the net there.
What is your impression of the court speed, Fred? I've been talking to the boys about the courts here, the indoor courts in Europe, and they say that generally speaking they have been slower. But this is helping the server a lot, it looks to me.
Well, I think we're looking at two of the best servers in the business, Cliff. I think we've got to wait until we see some more of the players like Chang, because I don't think it matters what sort of a court you're playing on. Under the circumstances that these boys hit that serve so hard, both Kafelnikov and Sampras. Look at this motion, way out in front. You can see how far that ball is tossed into the court as he makes that move to go in, out wide to the forehand. But the good serve and volley is throw that ball a good 3 or 4 feet in. Now that sounds ridiculous, but they're a good 3 or 4 feet into the court as they lean onto that serve to get their first steps into the net to volley.
Game point for Sampras, who is #1 in the world. Kafelnikov says that more than anything he'd like to become #1 in the world. He says that's more important to him than winning Grand Slam tournaments, because he wants to be able to say to his kids one day, your dad was the best.
Just to finish that thought, Cliff, as far as the serving is concerned, if you're serving them down, that last one is 201 kilometres an hour. That's over 120 miles an hour. It doesn't matter what surface you're on, the court's going to look a bit quick, isn't it?
I agree. Sampras is ahead. He has the lead here with the breaker serve. First set, best of 3. First round-robin match of the event. It is Sampras and Kafelnikov at the World Championship here in Frankfurt. Hope you are enjoying our coverage today, and we'll be with you through Sunday here with continuing coverage of the year-ending championship that will make one of these players more than $1 million richer when it's all over.
Yevgeny Kafelnikov in the top 10 now at #6 as he comes into this event. Only one service break here, but the last couple of games the cracks have sort of shown up a little bit in Kafelnikov. He missed a forehand to go down that service break. An unforced error there on the backhand side. 5-2 sounds like an easy first set, but there's only just this one service break.
Musta has a chance to become #1 in the world if he wins this tournament, but in order for that to happen, Sampras needs not to get to the final to help him along the way. So unlikely, and Andre Agassi, of course, is not here, the #2 player in the world, not far behind Sampras, but he has no chance to catch him now. It's 5-2 Sampras.
So on the list of the top 10 there, the missing link that is not here, Andre Agassi as the number 2 player in the world, and then the number 10 player was Goran Ivanisevic. Todd Snyder, the trainer on your left of the screen.
Paul
Paul
Annacone.
Annacone with the cap on, who is now
There he is.
the coach of Pete Sampras.
Actually, let's call him interim coach, Red, because Tim Gullickson is still Pete Sampras' official coach. He talks to him constantly.
Yes, he
He's
does.
in Chicago going through chemotherapy treatment.
We'll be
for
watching
brain
this week
tumors.
too. We wish him all the best. Saw him at the Davis Cup.
And it was nice to see him there. Game point, Kafelnikov. Kafelnikov holds on, but it is Sampras now who is 4 points away from the first set. College basketball season gets underway this week, and tonight get a preview, 10:30 Eastern Time. Dick Vitale takes you around the conferences with Dick Vitale's Slam Bam Jam college basketball preview. So join Dick as he brings you his diaper dandies, primetime players, and a whole lot. That's tonight. Sampras for the set.
What a great second serve there from Sampras on the first point. Very important to try when you're serving for the set to win that first point. He goes out there, Kafelnikov looking to run round the backhand and strike a forehand, was caught by surprise. It opened up the court for Sampras, and that's all he needed. Love.
Sampras won the World Championship last year, but as I said, he lost in the first match on day one to Boris Becker and had a very tough time with Stefan Edberg in his second match, but he won that tiebreaker in the third. And when that was all past him, Becker beat Edberg in the round-robin competition to keep Sampras' hopes alive, and he won it all.
Yeah, last year it was Edberg had to beat Becker in order for Sampras to stay in, as the top 2 in each bracket go into the semi-finals. Well, you open the gate a little bit, 15-30, and then another ace comes down. That's 7 of them for Sampras now. There's the motion again, straight down the tee. That's his favorite serve, right into the corner.
30 all. Steers that one wide. Here's another chance for Kafelnikov. This is, correct me if I'm wrong, Freddie's second anyway of the match.
Yep. He had a break point in the opening service game from Sampras, and Sampras hasn't looked like being threatened again since then, but serving for the set. Kafelnikov anticipated where that serve was going. I wonder if he'll look for the one down the tee here. There it is.
Second serve break point. Oh, that one goes, and you could see Kafelnikov's reaction. He knows how important that was. You get so few chances against Sampras.
I think he would have been more comfortable taking that on the backhand. It was a mistake, I think, to run around the two-fisted backhand. That is a consistent shot. We talked about the forehand, the vulnerability of the forehand, and it showed up right there on a big point.
That ace from Sampras gives him set point.
And you talk about the few opportunities you get on the Sampras serve. Right there, he has break point, gets back to deuce, another ace comes right at you.
volley steered long that time from Sampras, and it's deuce.
Well, again, Kafelnikov anticipating that serve from Sampras, right down the middle again, right down the tee.
Another set point coming up.
That's 9 of them. 202 kilometers an hour. 120, a little over 120 miles an hour. Another one down there for the set.
Sampras wins the first set. One breaker serve is all he needed. Set 2 after this break from Frankfurt in the IBM ATP Tour World Championship. Pete Sampras, set number 2 coming up. Sampras had an outstanding 95. It got him back to number 1 in the world. At Indian Wells, he beat Andre Agassi in the final. Took out Todd Martin at Queen's Club. Wimbledon, Becker was his victim. At the US Open, again, it was Agassi. And as we mentioned, at the Paris Indoor, which was the last tournament that he played, again, he took out Becker. Finalist in 4 tournaments as well, including the Australian Open, where he lost to Agassi. Key Biscayne at the Lipton Hill, again he lost to Agassi there, and Montreal, where Agassi beat him. They had a tremendous year, those two, didn't they?
Well, it's a great rivalry for the sport, and it really sparked our sport along, because a lot of questions being asked about tennis the last couple of years, and this year the rivalry between both those men have really sparked the sport. But there's a few fellows, I think, that are going to be challenging in the next couple of years, and one of them's right on the court now. Pretty difficult for Kafelnikov. Cliff, he's played a pretty good first set, but 10 aces in 5 service games from Sampras. That represents 2 points a game. It's tough to do much against that.
And yet he had 2 breakpoint chances in 2 different games, as we mentioned. The last game where Sampras held on to win it, and then the first game of the match. Wrong-footed Sampras. Kafelnikov is from Sochi, Russia, as you mentioned. It's a Black Sea resort town, where fabulous mansions outnumber tennis courts. Warm sea, plenty of sunshine, luxurious hotels. And in fact, many of Kafelnikov's club mates, where he played club tennis, earned a good living becoming ball boys for the vacationing Soviet army generals at that time.
Second serve at 40 love. Sampras goes for the big one, makes it.
Kafelnikov wanted to play Davis Cup in Sochi in the worst way, but the ITF wouldn't allow him. Kafelnikov holds on. 1 game to love, second set. Sampras won the first. We're at the Festhalle in Frankfurt. 1 game to love. Kafelnikov. Sampras won the first. We caught up with Pete Sampras yesterday. Asked him to reflect on this year.
And obviously be very happy with the 2 majors I've won, but even more importantly, the fact that, especially after the French and the way the year was going, you know, with the situation with Tim, you know, I was able to bounce back from being pretty low, and in a way that almost means more to me than having a great year and winning 10 tournaments. But this year has been a strange year. It's been a great year, but it's been so many off-court things happening that, you know, tennis wasn't really the main priority, especially after the Australian Open. But, you know, I think we've all come to terms with the situation with Tim, and he's doing well, and he's fighting hard. So, you know, I feel a lot better about it since we know what's going on.
An outstanding year on the court for Pete Sampras, but he has had to deal with a lot of off-court problems.
I think it's made him a much more mature young man, Cliff. I think he realizes how fortunate he is to be a professional tennis player and out there. And any time you win a couple of Grand Slams, Wimbledon, the US Open, it's got to be a good year.
But about this time last year, Freddie was still mourning, and still does, the death of Vitas Gerlaitis, his friend and ours, and then poor Tim Gullickson's problems with health. But his health has been good all year.
Yep. Attributes a lot of that to Todd Snyder. Oh, yes. Found the angle. Todd Snyder was the ATP Tour trainer, one of them. Left the ATP Tour to become Sampras' personal trainer. Look at that. He didn't have much room to work with. You see the reaction there from Kafelnikov. Stays still. That's the best shot of his. The most reliable is that two-fisted backhand. Love 30.
Kafelnikov has played more matches, singles and doubles, than anyone else on the tour. He has called himself lazy. He says that I like to get up at 10 o'clock in the morning. I don't like to mess with getting up too early and too much work, but that has started to change.
Yeah, well, his coach Anatoly Lepeshin, who's been traveling with him this year, he was on the practice court here at 10 this morning.
Incidentally, that little gadget that you saw just a moment ago, that was the thing that caused the lets. And the players were saying yesterday that it is very effective and does not make mistakes.
Tell you what, it's tough when you get a love 30 opening and again just get blasted off the court with great serving. Ace number 11 now for Sampras.
201 kilometers now. That's, what is that, 125, 127 miles. Sail wide. I tell you, it has been so. Number one in the world, Pete Sampras. Check the scoreboard. First set, one breaker serve, big serve. That's all you need. The fact is that Kafelnikov had more chances to break in that set than he did, but he got the important point.
Well, that's what makes him number one in the world, isn't it? That's where the inexperience. This young man's just 21 years of age. Sampras, the ripe old age of 24. But Sampras is winning the big points, and that's made the difference.
It's deuce.
And another opportunity now for Kafelnikov to get an early break in set number 2. This is the third break point opportunity he's had. Let's see if he protects that big serve down the middle on this point. Crowd trying to get Kafelnikov going.
First serve game of the match on Sampras' serve, he was down a break point. He hasn't been broken yet.
There's that heater down the middle. It missed. Kafelnikov was looking for it. This is where you got to convert on second serves. Well, a long rally. Good change up there from Sampras, who put that one up in the air with a little more topspin. It forced Kafelnikov to play a slice backhand. He'd been hitting this one with two hands, and that just shows you the camera work. That shows you the ball floating long on that last backhand from Kafelnikov.
Second serve a deuce. Another break point for Kafelnikov, a mainstay now, and this is really just his second year on the tour. And very successful year it has been, but in Davis Cup, he dominates the Davis Cup scene for Russia. U.S. will play against Russia December 1, 2, and 3. That makes this an interesting match because they may well play against one another in the Davis Cup finals, although that's played indoors on a very slow red clay court, not Sampras's
favourite court.
So he may not play.
May not. Another opportunity here.
And another one lost. So that is, what, 5 now altogether, Fred, or 4?
No, it's 4.
2 in this game and 2 in the last game of the first set and in the first game of the match.
Actually,
got
5.
That one, so this is game point now for Sampras.
That was 5 because he had one when Sampras held serve. When he was serving for the set, he had a break point to get back into the opening set. Sampras covered that one, was aware that Kafelnikov had hit a winner there earlier in this game.
Deuce. Kafelnikov's compadres on the Davis Cup team will be Olhovsky, and the chances are that he will play with Olhovsky in the doubles, and then Volkov and Chesnikov, who played singles in the semi-final round against South Africa. They took South Africa out.
No,
that was a quarterfinal round.
They beat Germany in a very
semis, right?
Big upset in the semi-final.
John Newcombe, who's captain of the Australian Davis Cup team, they lost last year to Russia. He was saying that Kafelnikov beat him single-handedly. Game point Sampras again. So Newcombe has said good things about this guy. So has Sampras, as you mentioned, Fred, after Sampras was taken to 9-7 in the 5th at the Australian last year. He's now number 6 in the world. But Sampras has a game point.
This is the longest game of the match so far. Kafelnikov has had 3 breakpoint opportunities here and another blistering ace down the middle. His favourite serve brings up ace number 12. And he holds.
So it's 1 game all in the second set. ESPN2 tips off its college basketball coverage on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. First round action from the preseason NIT as Long Beach State takes on Arizona. Wednesday, 8:30 Eastern Time. ESPN2. One game all.
Yeah, that's just too tough.
Fred, you've had this many chances to break now, and if you're in Kafelnikov's shoes, are you thinking, boy, this just isn't my day? Or are you thinking, I've had so many chances, it's just a matter of time?
Well, I don't think you can say it's not his day because he's playing quite well. There's not a great deal of difference except the big points here. And he's just got to try and concentrate a little more and not make those unforced errors. And I think you put that down to experience at this stage. You look at Sampras. Sampras is the only player in the field, Cliff, that has played here all 6 years of this. And that's a tremendous effort right there. So it shows you the domination of the game, the extra experience that he's had. You mentioned Kafelnikov's really only been out on the tour for the last 2 years. That's the difference there. Sampras can make that running forehand. We've seen Kafelnikov come up with some errors off that forehand shot. It's a very tough shot to make.
15-30.
This is where Kafelnikov sometimes gets a little depressed and a little dejected.
That clips the line, and now he's in real trouble with Sampras having 2 break points here, early stages of the second set. We're on serve so far.
He lets that one go. It was a mishit backhand. but the topspin kept it in. And you could see Yevgeny Kafelnikov going back to serve there with the shoulders starting to slump a little bit, saying, hey, I've done everything I can here, and I'm still down 15-40 in this service game.
That was the point I was making earlier, Fred, with having not got those break points.
Yep.
Yeah, not looking that good now. Kafelnikov let that one slip, and Sampras has got the first set, and now a break of serve in the second. It's 2-1. The Festhalle of Frankfurt, which is the financial capital of Germany. In fact, it houses the DAX, which is the equivalent of the New York Stock Exchange. There are 461 banks here, so if you want to change money, don't worry about it. You can do it right here in Frankfurt.
This is where you have a lot of your money, isn't it?
What there is of it, Fred, is back in Wilmington, North Carolina. Sampras to serve.
Indicative of the way Sampras has grown, in my mind, is that last service game. You look at that ball toss. The camera work here is just extraordinary. That last service game where he had 15-40 as you watch this replay. He had the point one, came in, didn't try and hit the winner. He played the angle volley back to Kafelnikov, said, if you want to stay in this game, you've got to pass me. Kafelnikov couldn't. Sampras achieved the break.
Good moving there from Kafelnikov. By the way, Fred, I can't resist it. Wilmington, North Carolina is obviously the banking capital of southeastern North Carolina.
Banking capital of Wilmington. Look at this. There are good wheels from Kafelnikov. You ought to be able to do that when you're 21.
15 all.
Whoa. First stroke of luck for Kafelnikov today.
He was brought up, as we mentioned, in Sochi, which has clay court, so you know, that's his home surface, but he's very comfortable, as you can tell now, on anything, including grass. $15-30.
Well, another couple of breakpoint opportunities here. Kafelnikov, up until that point there, he'd had 15-30 on 4 occasions. As you look at Anatoly Lepeshin there, he is the coach of Yevgeny Kafelnikov. So this is a game that Kafelnikov must convert.
They've been working together since 1991. Valery Shinshkin was his first coach. There's Sampras saving one break point. Here's another.
This would be disastrous for Kafelnikov if he was to lose this game from 15-40, having had 5 break point opportunities so far and not producing 1 break of serve.
Deuce. Keep me honest in this, Fred. 7 now breakpoint chances, isn't it?
It's by our computer that we're having a bit of a problem with. It shows 6.
Okay. I'm just going by what you do, because you keep the score for us. And
That's
14 aces to Sampras, now 3 for Kafelnikov. Game point.
So he's kept it on track. This is his 7th service game, and he served 14 aces. That's 2 a game. That's a 30-love start every time you stand up there and swing at one.
And he's still been down all those break points.
Yep. That's pretty disconcerting if you're up the other end.
You know, we talk a lot about Sampras's serve, and it is deuce in this game now, but Kafelnikov says that the best part of his game is his returner serve.
Yeah, but you can't hit what you can't see. That's been...
Serve.
Yeah, but you can't hit what you can't see. That's been the big problem here when he's had an opportunity, although he's had a look at a couple of second serves on break points.
Tried for a little too much. He had the obvious shot down the line and chose to try to go cross-court. It was a mistake, and he's now pointing down the line as if to say, that's where I should have gone. He's got a very good record, 5-2 against Michael Stich, who's another big server, by the way. Look at this again.
Good wheels again from Kafelnikov, but he had the open court. Sampras was waiting for that one. You could see Sampras had not moved from the point where he made his little drop volley.
Wide. Deuce again.
Well, Sampras in this set has had all he can handle to try and hold serve. Down 3 break points in his last service game, and he's saved 2 in this one.
Dad was, Kafelnikov's dad was, Alexander was a member of the top Soviet volleyball club at one point. Spent a lot of time touring the country. Of course, his son tours the world now, but he calls Sochi still home. Game point Sampras.
Yeah, a little bit of a dejected look from Yevgeny Kafelnikov there. Another opportunity, and he miscued a forehand. He's had the pressure on the Sampras serve, but has not been able to come up with the goods.
Sampras holds on, and he maintains the lead here. Kafelnikov has had his chances and has not been able to convert any. Sampras has broken the 2 times that he needed to. Kafelnikov has had a long year in both singles and doubles. As a matter of fact, as you can see, he won 4 singles titles. He also won 4 doubles titles. Goran Ivanisevic was a semi-finalist loser to him in Milan, and then he beat Becker in the final. In Gstaad, Kafelnikov took out Sergei Bruguera. That's on clay. And, of course, that is Bruguera's best surface.
Beat Luzik in the final. He won 4 doubles titles along the way this year, so a lot of time on the court.
$15-all.
Very intimate stadium, the Festhalle, as one of the overhead cameras gives you a good look, a bird's eye view.
Kafelnikov is making him work for it. He just has slipped a couple of times, and they both cost him breaks. 30-15.
No, you can remember when Sampras was 21. He was a little fragile on the forehand side, wasn't he? And that was the struggle. He made quite a few unforced errors. I think Kafelnikov is in pretty much the same vein. They, at that age, you don't concentrate quite as well as you do when you're up there at the top of the tree.
Sails down the line for a clean winner. Fred, I think that's a very good point. Not so much the mechanics of the shot, as you see Paul Annacone again, but the mental fragility of the players who are just 21, getting on the tour, trying to make their mark. And you don't see that hangdog look that you used to see from Sampras near as much now.
No, he used to have it the same as this young fellow has now.
Kafelnikov holds on, but he's still a breaker serve down. It's 3-2. Sampras second set. He won the first 6-3. Frankfurt, Germany was one of the joint capitals of Charlemagne's empire. That's part of the history of this great city. In fact, no fewer than 30 emperors of the Holy Roman Empire were elected and crowned here in Frankfurt. That's something that Fred, of course, has no idea about.
Unbelievable. I really enjoy that stuff that you get off the taxi drivers. That's good.
In fact, if you have to fly to Germany, the chances are that you will come through Frankfurt. It is the airline capital, I suppose you could call it, of Germany as well. Remember the old days of flying into the U.S., Fred? It was 9 times out of 10 you had to go through what they called then Idlewild Airport in New York, now John F. Kennedy.
Yeah, that's right.
Things have changed now, of course. Sampras serving. 15 love. Up a break and a set.
Boy, that one's worked well for him today. You can see Kafelnikov just sort of moving the hands there saying, hey, what am I to do? A couple of young tennis fans with the zoom lens trying to get the best shots they can get.
Pete Sampras can make sure that he stays #1 in the world at the end of the year if he gets to the final of the World Championship. The only way that Thomas Muster can overtake him is if he doesn't get to the final and Muster wins it all. I don't think either one of those two things are going to happen. I think Sampras will be in the final, and I don't think Muster's going to win it. Although, to give him his due, Muster won an indoor event, the very first of his career in Essen, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he believes he can now play on a faster surface. Again, just brilliant serving, good consistent serving from Sampras. It opens up the court. Just got to get that one wide, gets the angle on the volley. So he holds serve. It's now 4 games to 2. And it's at this stage that young Yevgeny Kafelnikov, if he is to climb up the ladder any further, has to say, hey, I'm still in this, I'm still playing well, I've just got to come up with the goods and break that serve. I've had a lot of opportunities, but trouble is at this stage you think, hey, I'm down a set in 4-2, I've played well, and you lose concentration, a couple of more points, and you're out of here.
Andre Agassi pulled out with an injury. He was in a very tough section for him. They had to redo the 2 round-robin fields when he pulled out. But he was in there with some tough compadres.
See, what do you do against that? You hit a pretty good second serve, think you're in a rally, and suddenly it's gone. Here's the rally starting. He says, yeah, I'll play a safe one. Half court, it's a little bit short, so Sampras is confident. He has a breaker serve, says I'll go for the winner. And this is exactly what I said. You see the slap onto the thigh there saying, hey, I've done it here, and now what's going on? Lose concentration.
Break
and
point.
Here he's a couple of points away from being in the showers.
That is long, and he's still alive in this game. It's deuce. That would have been a second break, a serve for Sampras, and that would have been all he needed. But now it is by no means over. Sampras has been in trouble on his serve. He had 6 break points against him. He has not been broken, though. Kafelnikov holds on. Players are going to change in. Sampras with the break and a set in hand. You're watching the ATP Tour World Championship from Frankfurt. Pete Sampras with a breaker serve, and he won the first set 6-3. Here in set number 2, he is looking good. 2 breaks of serve is all in the match so far. Take a look at the groups again. The white group is what you're watching. This is match number 1. Sampras taking on Kafelnikov. Up next here today, it'll be Boris Becker taking on Wayne Ferreira of South Africa, who benefited from Andre Agassi's withdrawal. In the red group, Thomas Muster heads that up. He's number 3 in the world now. Michael Chang, Jim Courier, and Thomas Enquist of Sweden round it all out. Agassi would have been in the tough group, as I said, along with Muster, Courier, and Kafelnikov.
Boy, I hope his injury's okay, Cliff. They really need him for Davis Cup competition when they play against Russia. Kafelnikov and company on a slow red clay court in Moscow, December 1, 2, 3, and we'll be there to cover that.
That is going to be an interesting match, Fred. If Kafelnikov wins on the first day and he takes on, in all probability, the number 2 player from the U.S., which I think will be Jim Courier. Well, if he can take out Courier, and you would have to give them the nod in the doubles, 2 matches to 1, Russia going into the last day.
Net cord here for Sampras as they just exchange ground strokes from the back of the court. This one just barely makes it. It's now 40-love.
Easy game to Pete Sampras, who maintains the lead in the second set with 1 set in hand. On Saturday here on ESPN, college game day at 11:30 a.m. Then at 12:30 Eastern Time, Indiana takes on undefeated Ohio State. At 5:30 Eastern Time, SEC rivals Alabama and Auburn clash. And then Notre Dame and Air Force under the lights at 8:30 Eastern, all here on ESPN. A college football triple header. 15-love. Kafelnikov serving to stay in the match. It's 5-3 Sampras.
Sampras just quite happy and confident. I don't think he's going to worry too much about this particular game. This one's half court. Sampras doesn't even move to it. This one's not close to the line. You can see Sampras just taking a couple of slow steps towards that one.
Just cannot resist hitting the running forehand for a near winner.
And of course, Kafelnikov feels as though it's an impossible task for him. He's got to break the Sampras serve, but he has had opportunities. He's got to dig in here and try and hold serve, make Sampras serve it out. That's too good.
Who would have believed, Fred, that Sampras could regain number 1 at the end of the hard-court season? When Agassi had won the Australian, he had won everything he played in the summertime after Wimbledon.
Confidence, that's it. Match points.
30 all.
30 all, I'm sorry. Match point now. 38 winners from the racket of Pete Sampras. They include 15 aces.
Those matches that when you look at it in retrospect and you look at the statistics, you're going to say, how did he do it that easily? Sampras winning in straight sets, but he had a lot of chances against his serve, none of which were converted. Fred?
1 hour and 6 minutes that took. It was some scintillating tennis, and Pete Sampras got to be awfully happy with his form. I think, you know, an average of 2 aces every service game, it makes it too tough if you're the opponent.